Welcome to the Catholic Table Talk podcast. This is where everything Catholic is on the table. New episodes Thursdays at 9 a.m. Eastern on most podcast platforms. Here's your host, William Sauber.
Some movies have shown up to be like Grammy nominees or Grammy winners, but they have some difficulties that Catholic family might see. For example, one of the best movies of this past year, 2023, was Oppenheimer, but it has some pornography on it. Some of the movies are very dark and horror, and some even are very evil, but they win awards. And yet, some movies, like the one we're going to talk about today, don't really get much attention, and or I should say they don't, because the big media doesn't want to talk about them. What we're talking about, what movie is coming up that probably the big media and a lot of other anti-Catholic, anti-Christian, anti-abortion, anti-pro-life, pro-abortion, to what you know about. And that's today's episode. Welcome to today's episode one. It's episode 132 as we enter a new year in 2024. William Sauber saying thank you for your continued support. If you have a show topic or speaker request, please email us at catholictt@gmail.com. Again, it's catholictt@gmail.com, the official email of Catholic Table Talk Podcast. Love to see your show and speaker requests. And don't forget to find us on most podcast platforms and leave us a review. Share feedback, like, comment, and hit the notification button so you never miss an episode. And like I said, we're kind of going back to what movie we're talking about today. It's called Unthinkable, and this is an Abby Johnson film. Maybe you've heard of Abby Johnson if you're really up to date with abortion and pro-life. You probably are. A little bit about the movie is Unthinkable. Unthinkable is a shocking expose of abortion industry's secrets. After telling her story, the best-selling book Plan about her journey and in and out of abortion industry, Abby Johnson's transformation from Planned Parenthood clinic director to pro-life leader, an activist, has caught the attention of millions of people all over the world and made her one of the movement's most controversial figures. Well, that's kind of a little bit about the movie. And today we'll have two special guests. Again, this is like the only second time that we have had two guests on the show before, all at one time. It's one of the producer of the movie, Lisa Barnett, as well as a sponsor of the movie. And she has been on the show before and sponsor of the show, Dr. Katrina Nguyen from My Catholic Doctor and MD Katrina. So let's welcome in Lisa Barnett and Dr. Nguyen. So thank you both again for being here, and yeah, just thank you for what you do.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So we'll kind of go off, one by one here, and if you both have, and maybe each question is centered more towards one person than the other, but if the other person has enough more content, please don't be afraid to add in as well. So let's start off, Lisa, with you. Just what is the story behind Unthinkable, and walk us through the filming of it? Because I'm sure I didn't know what a producer did until like a year ago, and I'm sure a lot of people out there don't know either.
Well, sometimes it's a fancy little title for all the backhand work, but Unthinkable is obviously Abby Johnson film, and in this documentary, it's a 90-minute documentary. We are going to be exposing the evils behind the abortion industry. So I was formerly a director here in the city that I worked in the pro-life. I've been in a pro-life community for a really long time as an activist. And I always thought I knew everything about what was happening in the abortion industry. I always thought I knew everything until we started filming. And so basically we are exposing the evils behind the door. And the story is also about a redemption that former workers come out of the industry and through Christ and through God's love and through Abby's organization, then there were none. They are rescued out of this industry and they completely turn their lives around. So filming Unthinkable, it uncovered some of the things that sort of made me extremely uncomfortable. And I would think through an average person who's not even been in the pro-life community would be extremely uncomfortable and extremely controversial. And so what our hopes is that we will open the eyes and hearts of many people, even in the Christian community, who more or less think that abortion is just a medical procedure. It's just something that you go in, you go out, your life is great after that, and all is well. And that's definitely not the case.
Yeah.
So, sorry, as a producer of the film, my job is to raise awareness in the community, connect with donors and investors. And that's how I met Katrina. She became one of our investors and basically bringing the finances to the film. And so wherever I go, whatever I do, I promote, market, and then show up at different conferences and promote the film, which is what we've been doing for the last 2 years. And so it's been a quite a ride for 2 years, but very enjoyable. And I'm so happy to be bringing something like this to life, especially in the pro-life community, because it's well overdue. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think like well overdue might be even an understatement, to be honest. But yeah, and just sharing your story about the producing, and I'm in marketing, so I really relate to that. So that's very, very cool.
Yeah.
And Dr. Nguyen, Lisa touched on, you became a sponsor of the movie, and again, for anyone out there before we came on air, I thank Dr. Nguyen for setting this up because she didn't. So how did you become a sponsor? And first, I guess, got it backwards. How did you hear about the movie? And then second, how or why did you become a sponsor of the film?
Well, I'm part of the Catholic Medical Association since 2014, and I went to my first national meeting in 2019. In 2020, I met Abby Johnson, who is the keynote speaker at the CMA conference, and kind of learned about her nonprofit organizations helping women who have been in the abortion industry to help them get out of the industry when they're ready and making that decision and helping them find opportunities to support their families. Also, more importantly, to know the love and mercy of Christ regardless of their past. And from there, I received an email, I think in 2022, from Abby Johnson and her nonprofit organizations telling me about the movie. And I've always wanted to do something more something meaningful for the culture of life. And I saw this as an opportunity to do something for that cause, to raise awareness, especially to learn from people who have been in the abortion industry, to know the truths and helping them expose that because of their personal testimonies. And that's how Lisa and I got connected.
Wow, awesome. That's a very neat and cool story. Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's what it takes. How it happens for sure.
And I
Wow.
always say, if we're doing God's work, right, he'll find a way to help connect the people who make it happen. And I think that's the story of how the investors, people who are donating and sponsoring this, we have a passion and a calling, and God is just connecting us to Abby and to Lisa and Mighty Motion Pictures to make it all happen.
Right. That's definitely God working through the way right there, definitely. I mean, there's just so many. I mean, that's basically just a podcast for me. You know, with all these speakers making all these connections, this person knows this person and so on. It's amazing. So definitely. Isa, I know I didn't really send you a question on this. I just really want to ask this question though. So like again, you said you've been promoting this movie for 2 years and everything, and getting sponsors and everything. I guess my question is, for everyone out there, you said it's long overdue. Like, has like this is kind of the blue, I know. I apologize, but has the abortion industry changed or anything, or has it gotten more, I guess, more evil, more dark, since the release of the movie, or since you guys were filming, I should say?
Well, I mean, if you think about this, the killing of innocent babies, and it's been going on for thousands of years in just different forms. And I will say in the last couple of years, we've seen sort of this explosive of sort of this death culture that's happened in North America and all over the world. We're looking at about 70 million abortions worldwide a year. The leading cause of death in the world is abortions. And so the thing is now it's not even really being hidden, right? And so when I think about when I'm on social media and when I'm talking to people, abortion is such a common thing. It's probably even more common than even going to the dentist, which sounds so insane, right? You're thinking, how can it be? But when you talk to young people, 1 of 3 of them have had an abortion. And they look at it like it's just a health options. I went in, I had this done, and then it's over for the people who haven't. But for the people who have, they live with this long-term consequences and health consequences, not just mental, physically, or mentally. It's the physical consequences that they're not even told about. Most young people are not even told the dangers of having an abortion and how that could have a long-term effect on them. So I mean, as much as even when you're talking about the evil, as much as even watching a TikTok and seeing, a girl go into an abortion clinic with a camera and saying, I'm having my abortion today, and doing a music video, it has become common culture. And so when you say, has it become evil? Oh, for sure. But the evil is so in the open now, it almost doesn't look evil. It looks just normal and natural. And on the other side, as a pro-lifer, this is astonishing to us and completely insane. And we're like, how in the world can you look at life on that capacity? But if that's what you're being taught in schools and in your home and growing up, that's what you know. And so the culture now is twisted to death culture all over. So we want to change that. We want to change what people are seeing, and when you see this documentary and you hear these stories from actual people who did it, something inside of you goes, I don't think that could be okay in any capacity. And I don't think Abby's story in Unplanned is an example of that, as someone who worked in the industry for a really long time. And then when she saw the ultrasound in the film, for those who haven't seen it, when you do, you'll understand what we're saying. All of a sudden, something clicked. And so we believe bringing this film to life is going to open the hearts, and God's going to open people's eyes to what's actually happening. It's truly astonishing. I can't give away some of the details of the film, but trust me, it's unbelievable. That should be the next film we do. Unbelievable.
I bet, yeah. And so, yeah, I just saw that some of the other questions, so thank you for that. I had to one in there. And that's really ties into this next question for Dr. Nguyen. Dr. Nguyen, how should doctors and also the public look at this film? As we talked about when you have been on the show before, you take your you take your doctoring very seriously. You go on the Catholic faith, what the Catholic faith teaches. We talked about that before in the show in previous episodes. So this might be a little bit of weepy in some areas, but again, how should doctors like yourself look at this film after you watched it, and also the public?
Well, I think one of the most important things when we were in training in medical school is to do no harm. And it just seems like, redefining what harm is what our culture is doing. But we need to learn from the people who've experienced the harm, both as a worker in the industry and even people who've actually experienced their own abortions and the regrets that they've had. And the harm's not just physically to their body, but mentally, and the regrets from that as well. I always tell patients and also colleagues, learn from people who've been through it. It's much better than going through something yourself. And I think that's the strength of a documentary like this, is being able to learn from people who worked in the industry and experienced the harms to themselves of having gone through abortions and having the regret of that. We need to not redefine what harm is. We need to know the harms that are experienced by the people who've gone through it.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's experience matters. That's for sure. And I mean, Chris, what Dr. Nguyen is saying right there, Lisa. I mean, I know this is probably for the content of this film is not what we want to see and what we want to think about every day. But we should in our culture. Just where does this film place in your other films that you have produced? Again, it's it's bittersweet because we're not really talking about something like a very rejoicing thing here. But just being on set, where does this film place in your past?
You mean where does it place in like
In your
and how
previous films?
done? Oh, okay. So
Yep.
if you go to mightyemotionpictures.com, you will see a plethora of 30 years of filming and that we have done. We're also we worked on there was a film released a couple of years called Hush, which is a non-biased look at the abortion industry from a person who wasn't actually pro-life and why there was not consent given to people. No, nothing disclosed when you went to the doctor by saying, "Hey, this is the long-term effects or anything," and all the effects that the long-term abortion causes. There was nothing like that. So the movie Hush really hits on that. And we're also we have a ton of films in production right now, and there's two more actually coming out right after this. One called Fathers, and another one called Truth Be Known, which touches on fathers in the abortion industry, and then also how our cultures is a death culture in general and what has happened there. So sorry, I'm just a little bit confused over the question where it would place in how many years we've been doing films on this nature, or is that what you meant? Sorry.
No, my bad. Yes, it was.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we, like I said, there's 30 years of film, and like I said, people can take a look at all the ones that we have coming up, all the ones that we have done. But I guess that in a major capacity, I think this would be a second in the pro-life world, and about 10 more to come after this one. So
Wow.
it's a busy time. But I also really think too, like this is the time to release these things where we have such a, like I said, going back to what I was talking about, death culture hanging over us constantly. We need to be extreme about what we're putting out there for people to see what's actually happening. We need to fight the fight, just as much as it's coming out, we need to fight it. So Christians and church now needs to stand up and say, take a stand for life, because it's not just about abortion. It's about euthanasia. It's about gender selection. I mean, there's just a path. We also have a film about euthanasia coming out here in Canada. So stay tuned for that. But again, it just carries right through from the beginning to the end, right? It's not just, oh, it's just focused on abortion. So yeah, I think we need to really be heavy, the church as a whole, be really heavy hitting these issues and bring an awareness. And film is the perfect way to do that. So
Exactly. I know my pastor, I guess I should say we have two priests for 8 parishes, so both my priests, but my formerly my pastor who's still here, he's not afraid to be up on the pulpit or walking within the crowd congregation and say he give the face take with a church stands on abortion, he's not afraid to do that. So I mean, God bless him for that, because again, it's many Catholics don't know about abortion. Don't know what's happening in abortion, like we've said on here away so much since we started. And yeah, I mean, it's something that you should really think about coming up with, especially within this election year, taking to the polls here in America. I guess Dr. Nguyen, I'll throw a pop-up question at you now. Just like Lisa's going on about, all these new upcoming films coming out and all these great sponsorship, sponsors. I just kind of idea go through my head. I think it's a pretty good one. It's the beginning of the new year. People are looking at charities to give throughout the year. just kind of, if you could just, I mean, again, like, why is this something that people should look at, donating the money towards instead of magazines or something? What, why should people look at these films and say, I want to donate to this?
Well, I think that constantly people are looking for inspiration and a positive message, right? And who wouldn't want to cheer on life?
Yeah,
The value of life, the dignity of life. And I think what's happening in our culture is that people keep redefining when life begins. And sometimes they look at the pro-life movement, the culture of life as extreme, but look at what's going on in our society. For people who are supporting abortion up until birth.
yeah,
If you don't consider that extreme, what is more extreme? I take care as a pediatric GI, I've taken care of babies, born at 23, 24 weeks. I know there's life there, and we are constantly saving lives younger and younger in terms of gestation. And yet people are trying to end life even at birth. So let's, focus on the positive message of saving lives and giving dignity and meaning to life rather than ending life earlier and earlier and redefining when life begins. So by redefining things, it doesn't make it true, right? The
right,
truth doesn't change just because you redefine and you use different words. So I think it's important to support causes that support the dignity and sanctity of human life. And especially as Christians, that should be the most important thing when you are considering efforts at supporting things in your community and your society. And in a lot of decisions, in the future, as you choose your leaders, who is leading your country, who's leading your church, who's leading your community.
right. Well said. And I mean, basically, at the end of time, we will be judging that too. I mean, again,
Mhm.
you might say, well, this book company, or this magazine company, or this TV series, or whatever I'm donating my money towards, I don't know really stand on politics. I don't really follow a lot of church teaching, especially abortion. I don't, and it could be a big time abortion, for abortion. Again, that's right. Yeah, you gotta do research, and support these great, life, because like you said, why wouldn't you want to support life? I mean, what more joy in that? I just had my two nieces over for Christmas, and there was a lot of joy in the house when my two nieces came over, and they're both under 2 years old. So it's definitely, life is precious, and yeah, and abortion, up until birth is, I don't know how anyone can see that as a white, but yeah. So Lisa, kind of rounding out the show, when will this be released? And like, what is the hope? I mean, I know you talked a little bit about bringing more awareness to abortion to the public. I guess when will it be released? And is this a good? Should you bring your whole family? Is this more of a mom and dad, date night movie? Who should see it?
Well, the movie is set to release early spring here. We have wrapped up filming, and so right now we're putting out the rough cut to be able to send out to the P&A team for publicity and advertising. So the film has been completely financed, but the P&A part has not been financed. So we're working on raising about $350,000 to put the theatrically released, which is quite expensive, but it's what it is. And we want to get this out to North America first and then to the rest of the world, which is even more expensive, but
Right,
that's where we're at right now. As for who should see the film, I think teenagers for sure, and that's sort of the discretion of the parents of how young. For me, I think I would have taken my daughter at 15. I would think to see the film because there's a lot of controversial stuff, and some things are very hard and difficult to hear. Um, as we have a very desensitized culture as well, a lot of teenagers think, no big deal, whereas I'm just flabbergasted at this age, right? But I do think from the response that I saw from Unplanned, when people watched it, that they were just heart-stopping at some of the scenes. I think some of the content would be preferably 18 and over. And that's up to, like I said, discretion of parents and how mature their kids are. I would not have little kids come and hear some of the things that, it's talked about. It'd be a lot of questions and a lot of confusion. But our hopes is to, like I said, push this film out early spring and theatrically release it to the world. And we've had calls from all over the place wanting to see this and hear, and they've heard about it. But as you can see, the success was unplanned. A lot of people are anticipating another film from Abby, which, like I said, is well overdue. But also they also want to see some movement in the pro-life community. They want to see things like this. I mean, even the explosion of Christian films in the last 2 years can show us there's a need for it and a hunger for it. So, and there should be. And what I wanted to say back to your comment about, answering to God, being judged by God. I always think, standing before God is a scary thing anyway, but what will we say when we even so much as protect life from the beginning? What will we say to God? What could we say if we did not support even people who are? So when you think about what you would do with your finances, what better way to put it towards films that can reach the world? So, yeah.
No, well said. And I mean, what you said about taking your teenagers out, I mean, I'm sure you both have heard and probably have, TikTok and everything, how much young people these days are influenced by videos on TikTok. And I mean, it's crazy. So yeah, getting out, maybe it's a mom and daughter, getting them out and going to the movie, seeing what it actually is. It's not just something that you have on your cell phone and think that's really cool, for 5 minutes while you're in between classes or something. So I think that's a good thing to have. Definitely for teenagers, I like that. And yeah, standing before God on Judgment Day is here enough as is. So, like you said, feeding the hungry, take care of the sick, all that. Same thing, protect life. Because it's his choice. He wanted life. He didn't say, I don't want humans, I don't want people, I don't want Adam and Eve. He wanted them. So
well, there's real hunger for young people nowadays for the truth, right? I mean, they almost don't know what to believe. This past January, we were in DC for the March for Life, and I was just in shock of how many young people I saw in the march. Hundreds of thousands of people there, and over half of them are young people. And so there's a need for truth for them. They need to see and they need to share with their friends. Like you said, it's not just a fictitious game or whatever. This is real life. There's children being murdered every single day down the block from them. And they need to know that the value of life. And when I was at the March for Life, I had a lot of young people come up to me. Of course, you've got a sign and you've got those pro-choicers and you leave my body alone. But when I sat and talked to these young people, they're, even though they're crude and what they're saying, they still have a need to want to know what the truth is, what is really real, right? So I was very inspired to see so many young people standing up for life. And so there are there. But I think this film could give a lot of schools and a lot of churches a tool to open their eyes from a very young age to see the truth and what's actually happening. And if they're going to choose that path, this is the consequences of it. So this is our hopes.
Right. And I mean, we have Savannah Duckledge on before. We had Chloe Kramer on before. Two great advocates for life, Students for Life. Great platform, great group to be associated with. Yeah, so it starts young and it works its way up, and yeah, it's happy to see the next generation. It's like my brother and I serving MS. We had all these vast variety of people coming up to you and saying thank you. It's so good to see young servers. It's so good to have the next generation coming up and really taking this on, and that's what we need. We need in full life. I guess, Dr. Nguyen, do you have any comments on what we're talking about here?
I think, the other important thing is we presume, like for me in the past, I thought, oh, it's obvious that I assumed like if you're Christian, you'd be pro-life. But actually, that's one of the biggest battles that we're facing right now. And we hope that with your connections and your Catholic and Christian community and guests that you've had on, to share the trailer, to share this podcast, and to get church going or Christian people to come out, and watch the movie, bring their families, their friends, to help expose the stories behind the scene of people who've been in the industry. And that our hope is that seeing it and hearing the stories will help change the hearts and minds of people starting in the Christian community and then going beyond that.
Right. Because
I wanted to say with this here, Abby herself has said, people would say, oh, Abby, this is just your story. This is just your whatever. And so this is why she wanted to gather so many people together and say, okay, well, let's talk to others. And so, like I said, we've interviewed almost over 70 former workers and medical experts, nurses, doctors that have their story. Now, I would think that most people would not want to share some of the things that they have seen inside of those clinics unless they wanted to make a real change. And so it's not really just Abby's story, it's from the horse's mouth. And so, yeah, it's going to be quite shocking. And I think you're completely dead on the money with that, that's for sure.
yeah, I mean, it's like, I mean, with your point with it, I mean, it's kind of like I made a post on Instagram the other day, like, you know, I how many people would follow me if I became, a pastor and got my own church, and no one did. I mean, yeah, it's you need a group. It's not just one. I mean, if you want to have a change, you need a lot of people. You need a lot of people in their testimonies and stories, and yeah. So I think that's great. You had that many, and I mean, so thankful that that many people came forward and gave a testimony about that. I think that's very, very cool. Um, Otherwise, that's about all I have for questions. Final word. Let's go with Dr. Nguyen, and then we'll go over to Lisa.
Well, like I said, as a practicing Catholic physician, the utmost important thing in my career right now and as Catholic is to promote the culture of life and speak against the culture of death, not just in abortion, but as Lisa mentioned, euthanasia and many other issues that affect our moral decisions. And I encourage you to share the trailer with other people, and also when the film comes out, to encourage friends and family to come out and support and invite other people to support the cause as well.
Mm-hmm. Great. I think the question that I've always gotten asked since I've been, in the pro-life community is, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. What can I do? I'm such a small thing, and there's a big giant in front of us. And that's true. But I would encourage Christians to take a stand, regardless of how small or how big, on their social media platforms, and everywhere they go. Like you said, talk to your friends and family about sharing videos, but also financial, which is always huge, is always the biggest roadblock that we have when we're putting out films in general, especially with this topic. And we would encourage you to do the work that God has called us to do. We're only here for a short time, and life actually matters. And it's the pillar of what Jesus is, who he is. And so we need as Christians to stand up for life on every single aspect. And this is one of the most easy ways to get involved in doing that, is giving to films. And so, and pro-life in general, not just our cause, but pro-life in general, and life in general, and in every aspect. So I encourage you to give. And like I said, like Katrina is saying, to definitely share the trailer, and also when it comes out, to help us promote this, because we need to get this in the hands of a lot of people. So,
Definitely.
thank you so much.
Yeah, well, thank you both for coming on. And I mean, just to wrap it up here, I mean, again, I share my goals for 2024 of how many people I will reach on all the platforms. And it really does come down to you, the listeners at home. All the links are down below. in the descriptions. We'll have a trailer. We have Lisa's links. We'll have Dr. Nguyen's links. We'll have the Unthinkable website links. We'll have our links. So don't go anywhere. Go down to the description box and click on them. And yeah, it's something that we need to talk about. It's not something that we want to talk about, but it's something that we should, because again, if you want to become Catholic or you become Christian, you have to be Christian. You should know that it's not right to kill an unborn child or even a born child. But for Lisa Barnett and Dr. Nguyen, thank you both for coming on the show, and hope to have you both back again sometime.
Sure. Let's make abortion unthinkable.
Well
Thank you
said.
for having us and sharing the message of Unthinkable.
Anytime. All right. We'll see you next week, God willing, everyone. Same time, same place at Catholic Table Talk Podcast. This is Bill Snyder taking you home.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Catholic Table Talk Podcast, where everything Catholic is on the table. Don't forget to subscribe to Catholic Table Talk on your favorite podcast platform to get new episodes delivered directly to you every Thursday at 9 a.m. Eastern.